Hey everyone, it's Mike over at landscapebusinesscourse.com. Whether you're listening on the podcast, whether you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, I want to say a big thank you for joining us today on the show. Today we are going to be talking about two different tips that I have for solo entrepreneurs in the landscaping industry. So we are talking about the guy that doesn't have any employees. You have your truck, your trailer, you might mow lawns. A lot of times that's where you start when you're by yourself as a solo entrepreneur. Had this question come in from the YouTube comments. So if you are watching on YouTube or on Facebook, comment below if you have a question that you would like me to answer. This one got asked last month. What tips would you have for a landscaper that is solo, doesn't have employees, and is by themselves? So here we go. Let's jump into it. I have two different suggestions here. So pardon if you're listening on the podcast, you'll definitely want to watch the video of this. I got a whiteboard behind me, and the audio might not be as great when I turn my back. But I want to jump into two different things that you can do as a solo entrepreneur to make sure that your company is ready for growth, number one, and number two, that you can still make money. So number one is scale. So this is something I want you to be thinking about if you're a solopreneur, if you're out there mowing lawns by yourself. First of all, I'm going to throw away that marker. But number one is going to be scale. And the question I want you to ask yourself is, does it scale? In other words, does it scale for you to charge the dollars that you are, what you're charging your customers? Will that scale out? If you hired someone else to be doing that work, would you still make money? Because if it doesn't scale, you'll always be in the field. What people forget is that you as the business owner, you are worth the most money in your business as it begins to grow. And the problem that people have is they charge $20-30 an hour to mow lawns as a solo entrepreneur and mowing themselves, and it's fine because their previous job they made $10 or $12 an hour. They move out to doing their own mowing, they make $20-30 an hour. They have some costs, but they still at the end of the day make $18 to $25 an hour in their pocket, which is fantastic because they just have a little bit of overhead, a little bit of gas, and it's really basic stuff. And so they think, this is great, I'm making $25 an hour. If I if I could just hire, my friend, and he can come and work for $15, I'll make $10 an hour in profit. This is going to be great. And so they go down that path. The problem is $30 an hour, in my opinion, doesn't scale. You're not going to be able to make money charging $30 an hour. Now, there's other things that you can ask yourself the question, does it scale? For instance, does it scale the type of services that you do? If your objective is to build a big business, it's going to be very difficult to scale out very specialized work. It's going to be very difficult to scale out if you're trying to do masonry and high amounts of quality and detail. It's going to be very difficult to scale out that masonry work because it's hard to train people, and when you do train them, you got to make sure you keep them because they could easily get a job somewhere else, and they're in high demand, and you're going to have to pay them $40 an hour to keep them, and if they leave, now you're really in a pickle because you got to find someone else to hire them and train them and get them back, and in that meantime, your customers are like, whoa, what's going on? And so it's very difficult to scale specialized work. So we've cut out things like irrigation. We've cut out things like retaining walls that are concrete blocks. All in the terms, and all because of this one question: does it scale? And a lot of solo entrepreneurs, a lot of you guys out there mowing lawns by yourself right now, you stop asking this question and you get caught up in the $20-30 an hour that you're making, not realizing that $30 an hour does not scale. I get this question every single week. And that is, how much should I be charging per hour for mowing? Because at the end of the day, you're charging for time, even if you're charging by the cut. If you're charging as far as coming up with that estimate, how do you come up with that? It's by labor cost. And so, what are you charging? If you're at $30 an hour, you are just going to lose money. You got to be at $40 or higher, in my opinion. Even for mowing, you got to charge that for landscaping and other stuff. You got to charge more than that. If you're at $30 or less, you are going to not be able to scale, and you will eventually lose money. These are the people that were in 2003, 2004 making really good mowing, and they had 4 or 5 guys now. They had grown their business, and they had forgot to ask themselves the one question: does this scale? And so what happened is they got 4 or 5 guys. They were making a couple bucks an hour because their margins were so thin. And all of a sudden, 2006, 2007, 2008 came around. Economy tanks. All of a sudden, the work dries up, and all of a sudden, when they have to reduce their prices by a couple dollars to keep their work, all of a sudden they start losing money. And those were the guys that went out of business because they forgot to ask themselves the question right from the get-go. Right from when they were one-man band, they forgot to ask themselves the question, does it scale? Because remember, if you're charging $30 an hour as a solo entrepreneur, and someone else comes along and does the work, you can't just assume that they're going to do the work in the same amount of time as you. You're the owner. You work hard and you work fast because your compensation is tied directly to the bottom line. So if you can't expect an employee to come in and do the exact same level of productivity and output as you do. So if you do $30 an hour and that's what you're charging, let's say you come and hire someone to do and you pay them $15 an hour. Let's assume it's like $12 an hour plus some work compensation and things like that. So $15 an hour. You say, okay, that's great. You know, I pay my expenses for my truck and overhead and things like that. That costs $25 an hour. I'm charging $30. I can now make $5 an hour. I don't have to do a single thing. I don't have to do the work. I don't have to sweat. I don't have to be out in the rain. Okay, the problem with that is there's just one very key problem, and is that you're getting paid based upon the cut price, and you extrapolated that based upon a $30 an hour mow when you were mowing. But now when you hire John and he's working at $15 an hour cost to you, he now takes an hour and a half to do a lawn that used to take you an hour, and all of a sudden that $5 is eaten up. Because people forgot to ask the question, what happens when I don't mow the lawn? So this is how you got to think about it. Take what you are making as a solo entrepreneur. If you're making $40, $50 an hour, whatever it is, take that number, take out wages, and then if you can take another 50% of wages out, then you have a profit. That's how I think about it. So, for instance, if I am charging $50 an hour and I'm pushing my own mower, I ask myself the question, okay, I'm gonna pay someone $15 an hour. And so what I do is I say, okay, then I'm gonna have some overhead. So now I'm down to let's say $25 an hour now, as far as how much I'm actually making, my gross profit margin. Now what I do is I take half, 50% of that salary that I'm paying him, those wages, and I tack that on. So $750. So I take their pay, so I'm making $50 an hour. That's fantastic. Okay, let's take their payout, so $15. Now we're at $35 per hour. Now we take out some overhead, another $10 an hour. Now we're down to $25 an hour. Now I take an additional 50% of their wages, $750. Now we're looking at $18, $17.50. $17.50 an hour, that is your profit. Now you have money to work with. What would have happened if we charged $30 an hour instead of $50 an hour? Guess what? You would no longer be making $17.50 an hour. You would be losing $2.50 every hour if your hourly rate had not brought into one consideration, one question, one very important question, and that is, does it scale? If you hired someone that was less efficient than you, that took 150% if they took 50% longer than you, would you still be able to make money? That is how you have to answer the scale question, and that's what you got to think about when you're a solo entrepreneur. Number 2, the second thing you got to be thinking about when you're solo is systems. If you're in the course, you know this is what I preach and this is what I drill into you, is constantly be thinking about systems and procedures and how do you systematize every single aspect of your business. I want to bring up a couple different aspects of things that you need to systematize. Estimating. You got to have a system for estimating. How do you collect leads? How do you set up estimates? How do you go out and do the estimates? How do you then generate the estimate from a cost perspective and then send the estimate, follow up with the customer, make the sale, Like, that's all a process. You gotta have a system for that. You have how many days does it take before I follow up? How many hours does it take for me to figure out job costing and send an estimate? Can I make a standardizing pricing list like we have in the course so that you can get the estimate out within a few minutes? You gotta figure this stuff out. Systems for estimating. You got systems for scheduling. Like about route density. You got to schedule in landscaping jobs with lawn care jobs and how this all figure. This is the problem. When people are solo, they start thinking, oh, well, it doesn't really matter about scheduling and routing. Like, it's just me. It doesn't really matter if I have a system for estimating because I don't have an estimator and a project manager and crew lead. Like, it's just me. I can figure it out. But the problem is, if you don't have systems, you can't scale. If you don't have number 2, you can't get number 1. In order to scale your business, you must have systems. And if you don't want to be a solo entrepreneur the rest of your life, you have to create systems so that your business can scale. All right, what else do we have systems for? We have systems for routing. We have systems for training. So we have routing. What's your route density? Do you need to market to the neighbors of your existing clients to get that density tighter and getting that route tighter? What about training your new employees? Do you have a system for training them? A newbie that comes on, do you have a system for them to get them from point A, knowing nothing, to some sort of value for the company? We've been working on this in the past couple of weeks of creating a checklist for our new hires. They have to do the course the first 2 weeks, 6 months, and 1 year. Things that they have to take home and checklist, and they will not get their pay raise if they don't make sure those things are checked off and signed off by their project manager. Those are systems. That takes time for us to develop that system. It takes time for them to fill it out. We got to pay them. There's paperwork involved, but we have to keep an employee file and all. There's a system in place though, because if you don't have systems, you can't scale. If I don't know my people, if I can't rely on my system of hiring and training people, I cannot predictably be able to determine how much I can grow my business. Because I can't just say, okay, people will say, okay, I'm gonna scale my business. I'm gonna go from solo. I'm gonna scale it up. Okay, and I'm like, that's fantastic. Last year we were making $100,000. Next year we're gonna make $200,000. And we're gonna hire a couple people. And I said, that's fantastic. That's great. I love to see a company growing their business. The problem is, do you have a system to hire and train those 2 new employees? Because guess what? They are no use to you if all they do is get out there and do work that's pathetic and your clients are complaining and you have to go back and give the work for free or pay for extra callbacks. Like, they're of no value to you. You got to take someone that knows nothing about landscaping and lawn, no experience. Because if you're paying for experience, you're not going to make any money. If you're paying someone $40 an hour because they have 20 years of experience, you have no systems in your business. A company that doesn't have systems pays a lot of money because they don't know how to figure out how to make someone that has no experience into someone that can generate profit for the company by creating really good quality work, has great customer service, is professional. You have to have a system to take them from here to here. All right, another system is invoicing and billing. Invoicing is different than billing. Invoicing is creating the estimate and sending it. Billing is how do you collect the money. How do you have a system for collections? After 30 days, what are you doing? You have to automate that whole process of follow-up and email and make sure you get the money. If they aren't paying via credit card and you don't have their credit card on file, you can auto-pay. Do you have a system for hiring? We've completely made a new system for hiring. Oh, we haven't made it completely new. We're added on to it from last year. So last year we added the career fair. This year we're adding something really cool. It's going to be basically a second day to the career fair where they got to come out and we're going to see how they work together as a team, and we can be able to watch them, see which people are the leaders, see which people actually get their hands dirty and do the work. And so I'm going to make a whole episode on that here pretty soon, and I'm actually going to probably film some of the actual day with the group of the career fair people, prospective employees. I'll film some of it and put that film footage for the course members on the course. But I will definitely make an observation and give back to a report to you guys on the podcast and YouTube and Facebook. I will report back how it works. But we're changing our system because once you have a system, what's so cool about it, you can start playing with the pieces of the system to get it to work the most efficient route and most productive and the most profitable way if you have a system that you can play with and kind of fiddle with and and see if something else works. So we had a really good success with this career fair thing last year. We're using it again this year, and now we're adding this other step to weed out more people and get better qualified leads. We're doing 2 of those career fairs, by the way, and 2 of those days, the day after essentially the career fair, they got to come, show up, and see we'll be able to see what they really got in the field. We got systems for, what's your day-to-day operations like? Your startup. What does your day start? What does it look like when you pull into the shop at 8 or 7 in the morning? How do you get out of the shop? Does it take you 50 minutes to get out of the shop for the time you pull in? Or is there a way that you can systematize it and make sure that you have all your tools in your truck before the day ends, the day before, and that all your clippings are already out of your truck, and have systems and procedures so that when you scale the systems and procedures, the systems and procedures of your business is the foundation in which you scale, i.e. build the house of your business to make sure you are not solo in that house anymore. So make sure you keep growing your business. Make sure you can scale it by having systems in place. So that is obviously the biggest thing we talk about on Landscape Business Course is creating systems so that you can scale your business. And there's nothing wrong with being solo. Some people think that being solo is like the worst thing in the world. Some people think it's not bad. Like if you want to be out mowing and out being in the field all the time, it's not a bad proposition. Don't think you got to scale your business because I or anybody else said you need to grow your business and that you have to have employees and have to scale it because you want to be able to take vacation time and have other people working for you. Like that's a good in theory, but for some people, being solo is really the best option. They can make $30, $40 an hour net profit. They can make a decent living if they don't want to deal with people. If you know you're not cut out for managing people and managing money and managing marketing systems and managing websites and all the other things that it takes and creating systems, if you can't confidently say you aren't going to be able to create those systems and scale up the business correctly, then being solo might be for you if you like being in the field. If you don't like being in the field, if you don't like being wet in the winter and cold and being out in the hot sun during the summer, if that's not for you, you're going to have to create systems. You're going to have to think about how the company is going to scale. And the problem is so many solo entrepreneurs, they think, well, it's just me. I can do it all. Why do I need to make an operations manual when it's just me? Then they forget about that. They forget systems and procedures and how things work and documenting what they do for the people that come behind them so that they can scale up their business. So think about scalability. Think about the systems and procedures that you are making. That's my tips for solo entrepreneurs. And I wanted to say a big thank you before we log off on today's show. I want to say a big thank you to everyone that's been joining the course. I'm going to grab here just the most recent course members in the past day or two. We got Clayton, we got Alberto, we got Isaac, Boyd, Alan, Ben. So many people joining. I really appreciate that. It's really helping with the costs of developing the new site, completely revamping it. So I appreciate everyone jumping on. It's been an absolute wild ride in the past 4 or 5 months, people joining and the amount of people involved online and just interaction with me. It's just a lot of fun. So if you have questions, I would love to hear from you guys. In the comments below on YouTube and Facebook, ask me, how can I help you start and grow your business and scale it up? And if you're a solo entrepreneur, I wonder if you can comment below, what is the number one thing that you struggle with as a solo entrepreneur? Or I want to hear from you if you want to stay solo and you don't want to have to go big. So let me know. Thanks again. This is Mike Andes, landscapebusinesscourse.com. We'll see you next time.